Seeing different parts of the planet in such a short period of time is hard to digest. It makes me wonder sometimes how one person can endure so much information at once. It's like an exercise at this point. I'm so used to hardly ever sleeping and roaming the streets of downtown Toronto with no care and motives in life. Little did I know it helped create this character in my songs that I left behind the first day I became known for my music.
I don't like to be the type of person that goes around talking about how I liked something before it was cool, before it was mainstream, but I can proudly say that I hopped on the Weeknd train very, very early. And seeing him go from rather unknown to one of the biggest names in modern music has honestly been so fun to watch. Jumping back all the way to 2011, I was highly anticipating Drake's then upcoming album Take Care, one of my favorite albums of all time and one that I'll probably make a video about in the near future. But anyways, with every passing day leading up to Take Care's release, I would check every news outlet and the album's Wikipedia page looking for any and every piece of info that I could get. And one name that kept popping up when talking about the planned collaborators for the album was The Weeknd, or The Weeknd, no E. I thought his name was a typo the first time I saw it, honestly. But anyway, after seeing his name so much, I went to his website at the time to see what he had to offer. And to my surprise, he had 3 entire mixtapes ready to download for free, mind you. So of course, I downloaded them all, and it was the best decision of my life. I distinctly remember thinking to myself, oh, this dude is going to be huge, and I'm so glad that I was right. An album from Abel the Weeknd Tesfaye is an experience. The Weeknd doesn't simply create albums, he develops worlds for his listeners to become enveloped in. The interconnected universe within the music of The Weeknd is a movie starring him as the main protagonist, a protagonist who's inherently drawn to the darker sides of life and fame. We saw him attempt to embrace the light and soften himself for the masses. The boy who tried so hard to feel nothing in the past was trying to feel something for the first time. But no matter how hard he would try to embrace the light, hints of his dark side would inevitably show. Next, we saw him realizing just how much of a star he truly is and letting that fame go to his head. He embraces it, indulges in it, and can't get enough of it. He is a bona fide star and he knows it. He is high on his own fame, obsessed with the money, drugs, and women that come with that. Then, at the height of his fame and luxury, the main character finds himself crashing back down to earth, humbled by heartbreak. The heartbreak sours him, triggering a depression and manifesting itself into anger and confusion. The Starboy has been hurt. But the Starboy doesn't stay down for long as he eventually finds his way back to the blinding lights of fame and luxury. It's his addiction, he can't stay away from it. However, this time there's something different. Who knows if time has healed his wounds? His past heartbreak may have made him all the more wiser, but he nonetheless throws himself back into the spotlight with even more reckless abandon than before. He's far more heartless this time around. This time there will be casualties. And then we reach twilight. The seemingly endless darkness of the night is almost over. The Starboy is stuck in purgatory. He wants better for himself, but he's not quite sure how to get there. He's simply waiting to reach the light at the end of the tunnel. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Every story has an origin, so let's go back to a place that the Starboy once called home. Let's take a drive back to Kissland. Kissland is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's so atmospheric. Kissland is a scary place, full of the unknown. It was The Weeknd's first album and his first step towards mega stardom. He was understandably afraid, apprehensive, and unsure of how to navigate this strange new world. Sure, we are used to seeing him everywhere nowadays, but a lot of people don't remember or don't realize just how much of a recluse The Weeknd used to be back then. He was still relatively unknown. It was shocking to even see his face on the album cover because pictures of him were pretty scarce back then. The Weeknd spoke about what Kissland meant to him, saying, "Kissland symbolizes the tour life, but it's a world that I created in my head. Just like House of Balloons symbolizes Toronto and my experiences there, but it's a world that I created. When I think about Kissland, I think about a terrifying place. It's a place I've never been to before that I'm unfamiliar with. A lot of it is inspired by filmmakers like John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, and Ridley Scott because they know how to capture fear. That's what Kissland is to me, an environment that's just honest fear. I don't know who I am right now, and I'm doing all these outlandish things in these settings that I'm not familiar with. To me, it's the most terrifying thing ever. So when you hear the screams in the record and you hear all these horror references and you feel scared, listen to the music because I want you to feel what I'm feeling. Kissland is like a horror movie. He also explained where the title Kissland came from, saying, I didn't want to call it Dark World or something so generic. The title came from a conversation that I overheard and those words stuck out. Someone said Kissland and I thought that's going to be the title of my album. It sounds so ridiculous. When I put the title out, everyone was like, what the hell, this is going to be corny, it's going to be all lovey-dovey. And as a side note, I didn't know where else to put this in the video, but I'm so obsessed with the Japanese neon aesthetic of this album as well, as shown in all of its promotional art and material. The journey into Kissland begins with the song Professional, one of my top 5 favorite The Weeknd songs of all time and one of his best in my opinion. It's a 2-part song, which is something that I'm always a fan of. Professional is an atmospheric, haunting song. It has the flavor of mixtape Abel with something new and something mysterious. It's such a great intro to a phenomenal album. Part 1 of the song depicts the life of the entertainer, the professional, and the addiction of fame and money. It's a fitting intro as Abel himself is on the cusp of superstardom. Part 2 depicts his professional relationship with the stripper, a relationship that is not limited to the club. The next stop on our tour of Kissland is track 2, The Town. Another one of my favorites, the song is yet another with a double meaning, dealing with the woman who left him for someone else, but who he knew would take him back no matter what. The song also works as a metaphor for The Weeknd leaving his home in Toronto to travel the world, pursuing his career and fame. Track 3 is Adaptation, where he speaks about adapting to this new world of fame and fortune and the drugs, alcohol, money, and women that come with it. It's all about indulgence. Towards the end of the song is a phenomenal transition to the next track, Love in the Sky, a highlight of the album for me. In a world as dark as Kissland, love can somehow exist in some capacity. Whether it's genuine or not, it's up for debate, but regardless, The Weeknd is asking his lover to let their guard down on this track. He warns them of what they're in for, but promises it will be worth it. Belong to the World is notable because it gives us the first taste of The Weeknd dipping his toes into what will become his signature pop sound. It's a great song and one of the best off the album in my opinion. It doesn't get nearly enough attention. He talks about a girl whom he knows is damaged and no good for him, however he still wants her. He knows she'll never be 100% his, but he just can't help himself. Track 6 is the sole collaboration on the album, Live For, featuring Drake. The song only seemed right after the magic the two of them created for Take Care. While it's personally my least favorite from the album, this song is still solid to me. Wanderlust is yet another taste of what The Weeknd would embrace later in his career and another one of the highlights from the album. This Michael Jackson-esque track speaks about how misconstrued the idea of love is. I absolutely adore this song. It's another one of those iconic The Weeknd tracks that doesn't get enough love. I feel like if this one was put on Beauty Behind the Madness, Starboy, or After Hours, it would have gotten way more attention. Pharrell did a phenomenal remix of this album for the deluxe edition of Kissland, which is worth a listen as well. I highly recommend it. Track 8 is the title track, the lead single, and the centerpiece of this album. This song is everything that Kissland represents put into one chaotic masterpiece. Everything from the screams in the background to the foreboding production to the sudden slip into madness in the second half of the song. Kissland is the national anthem of this godless place that Abel has found himself in. Kissland is sex, it's fame, it's drugs, it's pain, it's fear of the unknown, it's vanity, it's everything. I vividly remember this being the first new Weeknd song that we got after his mixtapes and being obsessed with the hedonistic mystique of this track. Abel fully embraces the horrors of this new world here. He welcomes it. Kissland feels like a point of no return, both in the context of the album and his career. He's too far gone. Fame has a hold on him, and he loves every second of it. The penultimate track on Kissland is Pretty, and it feels like sobering up after the chaotic high of the title track. Abel is vengeful on this track. His lover has cheated on him, and he's deep in his trademark angst, something no The Weeknd album would be complete without. The final stop on the trip through Kissland is Tears in the Rain. It's a somber track that feels like a sequel to the previous song. Abel laments that perhaps it's time to move on from a certain relationship, one that has passed its point of being salvaged, especially considering the new life that he has been thrust into. He sees no use in crying over what he can't get back. It's a fitting end to the madness of Kissland, a place that doesn't have happy endings. If I had to guess, a large number of people who consider themselves the Weeknd fans probably never heard of him prior to songs like Can't Feel My Face or The Hills or Starboy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm so glad that he got and continues to get the massive success that he deserves. But I think it's important to remember where it all started. Many of the sounds that The Weeknd is famous for started on Kissland. Looking back on this album, it's astonishing to me just how much of it sounds like his current music. It's reassuring in a sense because it proves The Weeknd never sold out and was always true to himself as an artist. None of the aforementioned chart-topping hits we know from Abel Tesfaye would exist without Kissland, in my opinion. We've all been to our version of Kissland. It's a place that we fought to get out of, but can't help returning to every now and again. The Weeknd spoke about what Kissland meant to him, saying, Kissland let's try it again.